Hello, I am Tarik Toros. Welcome to What's Happening in Turkey. A rising candidate from prison. The ruling party is divided. In Turkey, President Erdoğan's main rival, Istanbul Mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu, has been behind bars for 4 months. Yet during this time, he hasn't been forgotten, hasn't stopped fighting, and hasn't lost public support. On the contrary, the gap between him and Erdoğan continues to widen. İmamoğlu is the presidential candidate for the main opposition party, CHP. The party's leader, Özgür Özel, holds at least 2 rallies every week to keep the issue in the spotlight. He also visits İmamoğlu regularly and uses every speech to challenge the government's crackdown on CHP-run municipalities, debunking the accusations one by one. On Wednesday, 16th of July, İmamoğlu appeared in court for allegedly insulting the chief public prosecutor who led the investigation against the Istanbul municipality. His court hearings feel more like political rallies. His speeches are interrupted by applause from CHP supporters. In his latest hearing, İmamoğlu spoke directly to Erdoğan. "In this beautiful country, I am a threat to only one person. I've beaten him 4 times at the ballot box. I'll beat him a 5th time. I'll keep fighting. My determination is beyond anything you can imagine." Although it's not permitted, voice recordings, photos, and short video clips from the courtroom quickly spread across social media, garnering millions of views. The CHP has called for the hearings to be broadcast live on television. In a surprising twist, Erdoğan's ally, the MHP, backed the idea. Erdoğan himself expressed support. However, members of the ruling AKP have claimed that, under current conditions, such a broadcast is simply not feasible. Some between AKP are openly uncomfortable with how far these investigations have gone. Many think the cases and arrests targeting CHP may actually backfire and lead to big losses in the next election. In just the past 9 months, 17 CHP mayors have been removed from office and jailed. A large part of AKP's own supporters believe these are politically motivated moves. But here's the key point. Many voters who supported the ruling party no longer believe Erdoğan can solve Turkey's problems. And more than half of those who backed him in previous elections now say, "We don't want him to run again." A historic diagnosis. Erdoğan can no longer govern. In recent months, opposition leader Özgür Özel has stood out with his energy and strong performance. This week, for the first time, he openly questioned President Erdoğan's physical and mental fitness to lead the country. At a rally, Özel said Erdoğan has grown old. Later, on a live TV show, he went further. Erdoğan has reached an age where he has lost his judgment and his ability to govern. Blinded by ambition, he has become someone who has lost touch with reality, jailing his opponents and showing no regard for democracy. With these words, Özel made a clear point. The president of Turkey is no longer mentally fit to govern. He also suggested that Erdoğan's statements should no longer be taken seriously. This isn't a secret. Many people who have recently spoken with Erdoğan or closely followed his public appearances share the same view. These days, most of Erdoğan's meetings and events happen inside the presidential palace. He rarely leaves. When he travels abroad, it's only when absolutely necessary, and usually for just 1 day. He reads all of his speeches from a written script or a teleprompter. In parliament, he walks slowly, often holding on to his bodyguards. He often appears to struggle with journalists' questions and is frequently seen giving unrelated answers. Using Signal declared a crime. This week, a surprising detail emerged from the ongoing investigations targeting opposition-run municipalities in Turkey. A pro-government newspaper reported that Turkish prosecutors are now treating the use of Signal, a popular encrypted messaging app with nearly 100 million users worldwide, as criminal evidence. In the investigation into the Istanbul Metropolitan Municipality, one official's phone was examined, and the presence of Signal was flagged as suspicious. even though the app is freely available and widely used around the world. But this isn't the first time Turkey's courts have taken this kind of approach. Years ago, another encrypted messaging app called ByLock, which could be freely downloaded from the internet, was used as evidence to prosecute tens of thousands of people. Many received over 6 years in prison, just for using the app. International courts, including the European Court of Human Rights, have criticized this double standard. Turkish courts have often turned a blind eye when it comes to government allies, but targeted opposition groups with harsh punishments, treating encrypted messaging apps as proof of guilt, even without any other evidence. The quietest anniversary was 15 July a coup or a setup. This week marked the 9th anniversary of the attempted coup on 15th of July in Turkey, but this year's event were the quietest yet, with low public turnout and minimal attention. Public belief that 15th of July was a real coup attempt is fading fast. The change is visible in the comments beneath pro-government social media posts, where many openly question the official narrative. 9 years later, people are now saying out loud, 15th of July, labeled as a coup attempt, became a turning point, a moment that President Erdoğan used to shift the country toward an authoritarian civilian regime. In recent years, the core of the story itself is being questioned more seriously. For example, the Chief of General Staff at the time, supposedly the victim of the coup, is now accused of being the leader behind it, yet no one dares ask him directly. The head of Turkey's intelligence agency failed to warn the government in advance, even though he had received early information. He was never held accountable and was later promoted to foreign minister, which many see as a serious contradiction. The man tried as the #1 suspect, General Akın Öztürk, former Air Force commander, has said he was tricked into going to the coup command center and was set up by others. Witness testimonies support this. The United Nations has issued 2 urgent calls for his release on 14th of May and 17th of June. But despite these international rulings and repeated appeals, nothing has changed. Akın Öztürk remains in prison. Kurdish peace process on hold. Trust is fading. The government's terror-free Turkey process, carried out in cooperation with the pro-Kurdish DEM party, has now entered a pause, mainly due to the summer break. Most recently, President Erdoğan openly named the pro-Kurdish DEM party and said, "We will move forward in this process as 3 parties together." This raised questions. Is the DEM party becoming part of the government? But both government officials and DEM party leaders quickly responded, stressing that this is just a process alliance, not a power-sharing deal. 9 months in, here's the picture. The Kurdish side has taken every step the state demanded. In return, the state has not made a single move, not even a gesture of goodwill. Despite the European Court of Human Rights issuing its 3rd ruling against Turkey, Selahattin Demirtaş and Figen Yüksekdağ, former co-chairs of the party, remain in prison as Turkish courts once again rejected their appeals. DEM party officials said a problem that has lasted 50 years can't be solved in 50 days. Their message hints that tensions will grow in the second half of the year. I am Tarik Toros. Thanks for watching What's Happening in Turkey. See you next week.